Well, I'm here with Jeremy Miller, and he's Canadian, so please forgive him. No, I'm just kidding. No, we're marketing profs, and you're talking on sticky branding. You also have this book out, which you've so graciously given me, and I'm actually very excited to read about it because I think branding is one of those things that we got right for a while, but then we kind of fell off the bandwagon a little bit, right? And I think companies and marketing teams need to go back and reconsider branding and what it means to have that customer experience with a brand. So, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Having a great time this week.
Yeah. So, what's the session about?
So, I'm going to be talking around how to create a first choice advantage.
Okay.
And for me, branding isn't about logos and taglines and colors. It isn't about the visual things. Those are ways that you can show your brand. It's the way you can tell stories. But what I really care about is how do you build a relationship with your customers? And for me, a sticky brand is that one where a customer chooses you first. And if you think of any remarkable brand, Apple, Nike, Starbucks, or even your favorite restaurant that you go to all the time, they all have that one thing in common. You choose them first.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to be talking about is how do you create that first choice advantage? How do you engage active buyers when they're making a decision? How do you engage inactive buyers and build that connection so that when they have a need, they think of you first?
And that's so important today because we're told don't have the conversation, let them start the conversation because that's the way people want to buy, right?
Yep.
When I go into a Best Buy or any electronics store, I am an informed purchaser. I have my phone out. I'm ready to do some research.
Right.
When a 17-year-old kid comes by, I'm just like, dude, stop, turn around, right? Go away. And because I want to make that decision. When I'm ready to buy, I'll go grab somebody and say, do you make commission here? And he'll say, yeah, we're on commission. I say, okay, put your sticker on this, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and pretend you help because it's like the brand. I'm there to help solve the problem.
Yep.
But like you said, you want the brand to be the first one I think of, right?
So it's interesting what you're talking about, though, going to a Best Buy. If you're making a major purchase, say it's a television, say it's something where you're going to spend some real dough on it, well, you're going to do your homework before you walk in the store. And if you think of it in a B2B context, customers binge before they buy. And this will be a key concept that I talk about in the talk is that what we find now is there's a new buying behavior that we now have so much access to information that we know everything's there when we have a need. So that at that point, when somebody's in a buy state, they'll read your website, they'll read your blog, download your videos, download your white papers, they'll Google you, go to social media, they'll consume it all. And then they will make a decision, they'll buy, and that reading behavior subsides. And so this binge is a really fascinating activity. And as a company, if you can spot the binge, well, now you can show your salespeople who are the prospects to talk to. But the other side of it is, if you know your customers are going to binge before they buy, facilitate the binge. Give them the information they want so they can make the sound purchase decision, call your customer or your sales rep up and give them the order. Like, look at the velocity that puts into the sales funnel.
Today, real time is the only time that counts. To stay relevant, you have to stay ahead. Your customers want the right information, right now, wherever they are. So how do you meet the demands of today's customers? By marketing in context. Context accounts for a customer's interaction with your brand. So each touch builds on the next, creating more meaningful experiences for your customers. At Sitecore, we call this context marketing. To do it well, you need marketing technology that has three things: contextual intelligence, content management, and omni-channel automation. Contextual intelligence gives you the information you need about your consumers, so the content you manage is more relevant and is automatically delivered wherever your customers are. The Sitecore Experience platform was built for context marketing, so you can create a more personalized customer experience. Demand more from your marketing technology. Demand more from marketing. Own the experience. Sitecore.
there's so much data out there now, but I think we're incorrectly using it. And so you need to find those buyer habits. You need
Yeah.
to find that piece. But then there's that enablement of the conversation internally that, hey, I'm, looking at the network and this guy keeps popping up. Maybe you should interact, or who do we have contacts with? So what are some of the 12 and a half principles that I can look forward to in the book?
So the way it's structured is we look at branding as a multi element piece. That's why there's 12 and a half principles for the book. But let me take a step back. To write the book, what I wanted to do is write a practical playbook for small and mid-sized companies.
Okay.
One of the things that I found is I came from a family business before writing the book, and we had to go through a rebranding process because our industry transformed around us. And so at the time, I remember going and reading all the branding and marketing books I could get my hands on.
Yeah.
And funny enough, they're all about companies like Apple, Nike, and Starbucks. They're all the awesome brands, but I was coming from a small 10-person family business. We had a marketing budget, but not a vast marketing budget. So doing what Apple does is just totally irrelevant.
Yeah.
And so what I set out to do in this book was understand what is a company with a marketing budget, but not a vast marketing budget, do to grow a remarkable brand. So I took my story and then I went and I profiled over 150 companies from the United States to New Zealand. And what the research brought together was there was a set of principles that ranged from marketing, how do you communicate and get your message out there, to talent. And so it's the spectrum. One of my favorite principles, and I think it's a foundational one, is called simple clarity. And simple clarity is the ability to describe who you are, what you do, and what makes your brand unique in 10 words or less. And you think of this, Google has now trained us not to think about a catchy tagline like M&M's, melts in your mouth, not in your hands. Nobody would ever Google that.
Yeah.
But what we will do is we'll look for a category, we'll look for a qualifier, and then when we hit the brand, we look for that unique, what makes it unique. We'll visually qualify that for you. So the tagline almost becomes useless because we will make our own judgment of how unique you are based on what you present. So simple clarity is that ability to distill that language to speak it, to make your brand Googleable, to make your brand referable in the language of your customers. And I think when you get that right, then you can start doing all the other principles like creating a total customer experience or getting conversations started. They all build off of that foundation.
And so small to medium-sized businesses, they're probably a very captive audience, right? Because they're unlike a larger enterprise where it's like, oh, we can't do that. I will never get approval on that. They're actually looking for solutions. Is that kind of the thought process behind it, that you want to make a movement happen?
Yes, but also I think it's an imperative. So in my case, my family business was in the recruiting industry. And in the 90s and early 2000s, an average size permanent placement recruiting agency was about a $25 million business. Today, the average is about $500,000. And what's happened is LinkedIn and Google are similar to what Expedia has done to travel agents. So what we're seeing is this fracturing of the industry based on technology. And what I found in my own business was that in order to stand out, in order to create some competitive immunity and protection, so when your market's being disrupted all around you, you've got to have that brand and those customer relationships just to compete and stay alive. Mm-hmm. And so I think the movement is really, this is the next generation of how we grow our businesses. As a small and medium-sized business, you have to have a brand. Yeah. As a tier one, you have to, everyone needs a brand now because this is really where we're going to survive. Because if someone can't recognize with you, all they're going to do is buy on price.
Yeah.
Selling on price sucks.
Your CMO just handed you a global campaign with a short deadline and the request to lead with video. You're given a team of you and, well, you. This campaign is asking for 15 videos that need to create awareness and engagement across multiple online destinations, drive demand and lead gen, and measure performance. Whew, calm down. Everything's gonna be okay. We've got you covered. First things first, we're going to set you up with Video Marketing Suite, which will allow you to access everything you need from a single online location. And it's made for marketers, so you can easily run your campaign yourself. With just a couple of clicks, your videos are uploaded, automatically optimized to work across all screens and devices. You can distribute to your social channels to reach audiences where they are, and then drive them back to a customized branded video portal using Gallery, which you can create quickly, easily, and in multiple languages. For live events, Brightcove offers an easy-to-use live streaming interface, and after you're done streaming, trim the video and post it on demand for people who missed the event. We'll even help you create interactive elements to optimize video for lead generation. To make sense of all this, our analytics platform tracks a number of statistics in an easy-to-use UI. This data feeds into leading marketing automation platforms. You can see who watched and for how long, and what other content they consumed. Then you know what to create and who it's for. We're Brightcove. We'll help ensure that your video marketing is a success.
The brand is who you are. It's who I can trust. It's, what like I'm trying to engage with. And so we recently had a recruiter on the same day take 2 employees and get them brought into another location and call and try to sell us recruiting. And we're like, seriously, like you need to just go away. Like we don't want to interact with you. You're cannibalizing your own customers. And that was their brand was, oh, well, we're the number one in this. And I'm like, not for long. Yeah. Because I now know this about you, and I have a lot of friends in the industry, and you better believe that I'm gonna, start going after, instead of actually being honest and upfront and engage with us and be that brand that we originally thought they were. They were acting and doing something completely different.
I think what they were doing was immoral. Yeah. Our business had a core value, which was you never take from your clients. Yeah. And you never never take someone you've actually gotten a job. Mm-hmm. So that candidate might call you back 5 years later and say, you know what, I'm gone as far as I can with this company, we want to leave. Our view was, you work for that company, we're not going to get you out of that job, no matter how much we like you. Yeah. We won't facilitate that. And that was mandated down that if a staff broke it, that was a fireable offense. Yeah. Because to your point, it's trust. You bought a product from us. For us to steal that product away from you, now it's kind of awful to talk about people as product.
But very much a brand. Right?
But that was our brand. And that created a great deal of brand loyalty, that once people worked with us, they came back again and again and again. And that really, when you've got repeat customers, it accelerates everything. Like, the ideal is not have if you got a brand, your customers don't kick the tires. They go right to you.
Yeah. And so I love that aspect. And I think that, starting a business is always hard. Scaling a business is even harder. You hit the first glass ceiling, you hit the next one, and then finally you get to the place where the identity questions really start coming up, and you bring more people on, and you have to get the branding thing across to them. And as an owner, it's like, that's one of your number one missions. It's not doing all the work. It's actually telling people, this is who I was. This is why I founded the company. This is why all of our customers keep coming back.
That's really a fascinating point. So one of the surprises that we had from the research study was many entrepreneurs said that for the first 5 million in revenue, all we cared about was creating a repeatable business. It was about revenue. It was around making payroll, doing the things you do to be in business. They cared about the brand in the sense that the brand was the entrepreneur, but they didn't think about branding per se. Branding kicked in around that $7 to $10 million mark, because now you have to reflect your values through others. Mm-hmm. And there was a conscious decision to focus on the brand. And I think it's that point, to your point, it's when you start to have to scale, when you start to have other people and you no longer control, distilling and baking those values right into the organization really becomes a critical activity.
Yeah, because then you'll start, that's when most companies start to fail. It's like they try something completely different, and all of a sudden the wheels fall off. And in a business, it can end that quickly because you scale, and you're still only a few clients away from going out of business. Really, you see all these large companies squirming because they're in the same way. Mass layoffs, right? That's the equivalent of, losing one employee when you're 4.
It's terrifying.
Yeah, exactly. It's so hard. Well, where can people find out more information about buying the book and then also interacting with you?
Sure.
Because I'm sure the book is not just your offer to the world, but you actually help brands. And
Yep. So in
companies.
terms of finding me, if you Google Sticky Branding, you'll find my website, stickybranding.com. You'll find the book, Sticky Branding. I'm on Twitter on Sticky Branding. You name any of the social networks, type those words in Sticky Branding and you will find me. And you're absolutely right. Beyond the book, I offer brand strategy and consulting services. I speak at roughly 30 to 40 conferences and events a year. So
Nice.
I'd be more than happy to connect with any of the audience.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad that you came on the show, and I now have a new Canadian friend. And so I'm excited to make it back to Toronto and actually giving you a call.
Well, we will go party when you come up.
Sounds awesome. Well, thanks for
Awesome,
your time, man.
Appreciate it.